this is Chase Carr, my husband. I am the pastor's daughter of Victory Church. Chase and I have been married for over 3 years now. And as a child growing up in church, I always wanted to have a testimony where I could be able to stand up and give God glory on Wednesday night just like everyone else could. What I didn't know, I was a living testimony. I lived in a loving, godly, caring home with perfect parents, in my opinion. God has always been there for me, and I'm beyond thankful for that. I look back now and I realize that I did have a testimony. Majority of girls growing up has dreamed of getting married to their Prince Charming and having a home of their own, and then making a family together. So here I started my dream off in January 2017. I married Chase. And then in the summer of 2017, we owned our own home, our own beautiful home that God had blessed us with. We were married, like I stated, and then we had our home. So, what's next out of a dream that this girl had dreamed of all her life was having a child? As soon as we got married, we wanted to start having kids right off because our love for our nephew, Baxter, plus Chase has a niece and 2 twin nephews that we just adore. We saw how much joy these kids brought to our family on both sides. We wanted to do the same for our family. Well, that didn't happen as easy as it did for everyone else. So I went to the doctor, started talking to my OB. She let me know that we couldn't start talking about options on having difficulty times having our child of our own. So she said that we had to wait up until a year of trying to have a kid before we could call it an issue. But then they started putting me on medicine that put me in so much pain. I've always been told I can take pain and that I'm pretty tough for myself. I mean, to describe the amount of pain that I had to go through taking this medicine, I never once complained about it. I never told my doctor that it put me in that amount of pain. I just thought that that's what came with it. That's what I had to do in order to have my child. I was willing to do anything and everything so I could have my child, so we could have our child. I took it for over 6+ months or so. Nothing was happening. I had hope. I took her advice. I took the medicine that put me in pain. I did everything that she told us to do, and nothing was happening. Nothing was working. It's now been a year, and our doctors had sent us to a specialist where we went and spent hours of taking blood tests, other tests, and learning all different ways to having a baby where we had multiple options. A very overwhelming day, and how difficult it actually is to have a child on your own, and all about the body that you would never think of or imagine. I guess I probably learned it in school, but I don't remember it. We told this specialist of all the medicines that we were put on. Told him that my doctor thought I may have endometriosis. Never in my life have I ever heard of that word or knew the meaning of it. He took me off the medicine immediately. He said if your doctor had any clue that you might have endometriosis, then you should have never been on this medicine. Hence why I was in so much pain during that time. What I understood of what endometriosis is an inflammation in your body that clouds the reproduction of having a child in order for them to meet in order to create a child. Now we're doing more medicine and trying a whole other route and waiting, but nothing is happening. To tell you the pain, the struggle, the tears that was happening during this time, I can't even put into words. My parents living across the street from us, yes, they knew the pain, but I did not want to tell them every time I was in the bathtub screaming and crying from not knowing why I cannot have a kid, why we can't have a kid. And I didn't want to put weight on them while it was already hurting them that we were struggling. Sometimes I would just lay in our bedroom floor and just in a fetal position, rocking, just crying, why God, why me, why? I don't understand. I never really wanted to question God. I never blamed God because God has always been there for me. He's never been an enemy in my life, and whatever God has done in my life, I give him all the glory and all the honor. But it's hard. It's so hard. I never understood why people joked on April 1st about I'm pregnant. That's not a joke. There's people out here struggling as a couple, as people that I have friends that can't even have kids at all. And so I just want that what I'm trying to say, what he has to say, helps someone out there. And it may not be about having a baby. It may be about something else. But wait, our story is not over. As a girl who had always dreamed of a fairy tale, having a husband, having a home, and having a baby, never thought that anything could happen to us. I have always given God my best. Every time the doors were open for special services, for cleaning, for anything, I wanted to be there. I always gave him my best. I assumed I did. I tried to give in worship. I gave more than I had to or needed to in tithes and offering, and I always wanted to give to missions and to this special offering. But I think that God was finally giving me my testimony that I always wanted as a child. So I would be able to stand up on a Wednesday night in church or a Sunday night and be able to say, to God be the glory. God gave me. God has given me my miracle. As test results are coming back, all the test shows is that my vitamin D was low. That's it. That's all. It all came back. Thousands of dollars of tests, and all it says is my vitamin D was low. And by then, my specialist is pretty confident that I have endometriosis. But in order to find out if I have endo, I have to have surgery. And on top of that, finding out if I have endometriosis, he then tells us that now I won't be able to carry my own child during pregnancy, that it would be a very unhealthy pregnancy. And so hearing those words, your fairy tale is no longer existing. And so you don't know. You pray, you have people praying for you, You pray and you pray. You go home and you worry and you cry. Just give me an answer. I just need to know so I can rest my mind. So in January of 2019, I had endometriosis removal surgery and polycirrhosis surgery. It was a very hard, painful surgery that took longer to finish due to complication and how intense my endo was. My doctor came out to talk to my mother and my aunt. He came out just shaking his head, and he said she has endometriosis in her lower intestine, her uterus, inside and around her ovaries, and in her fallopian tubes. Pretty much everywhere inside my body is covered in endometriosis. He was overwhelmed by seeing how much endometriosis I had in my body. He said to them that she will probably have to have another surgery in order to prepare her body to have a child. On one Sunday night, my father was preaching about heaven and hell and couldn't finish preaching because it broke out into an altar call. I came to the altar and I gave God it. I kind of got ugly with him, in all honesty. I said, God, I have given you my whole life, and all I'm asking you, I don't want my story to be that I had to have an IVF child. I want my story to be told, God gave me a child. So here I am. Oh, I also told God, you give me my miracle, and I will share my testimony, our testimony, with anybody, anytime, anywhere. If I get a chance on the news, I'll go on the news and share it. I'll do anything. You give me the miracle, God, and I will share my miracle with you. So our next step, I've had the surgery. I've done everything they told us to do. We've taken medicine. On February 28th of 2019, we went back to our specialist to sign and agree the terms and the amount of money to go forward with IVF. It was going to be well over $20,000 just so we could have our kid. Chase, I had told him that multiple times. And when he put it out on paper and we had to sign our name with it, I think he was about to have a heart attack. I just said, sign it. We're gonna do it. We've talked about this. We signed the papers. We left excited because it was starting of having a child. I started in my head thinking, okay, if we start this process, then it will be da-da-da-da, and I'll have our baby at this time. I mean, that's just how a woman is. So we were very overwhelmed with, of course, the amount of money. He said, our next step is when you start feeling your body to be normal again from the surgery, call us, which would be in March sometime. He said, we're gonna start putting you on birth control, take you off, make you take some estrogen pills, I believe, and then fertility shots, where you would have to take those daily. So, March came. I kind of forgot I got busy and doing stuff, not thinking about getting pregnant or having a child. I guess God just gave me that peace that one Sunday night that I said, give me a miracle. And I guess I just gave it all to God. I just put it all in his hands, says, all right, it's yours. You do the rest. I'll just be here. I'll be the willing vessel. So I never had to call my doctor back. Not because I didn't feel normal, because on the end of March, I found out that I was expecting a child. I screamed. I cried. I went to the OB and immediately they confirmed it. The whole clinic knew the excitement on my face, of course, but I shared with them every time I went into that office, what was in me was a miracle child. Remember how I said above that the specialist said we couldn't have a child on our own, and if we did, it wouldn't be a healthy pregnancy? Well, during my whole pregnancy, I did not have one complication. All my levels were great, and I carried her full term. I give God all the glory for my precious baby girl, Ivory Alora Carr, who is almost 4.5 months old. She is the happiest baby. She's perfect. And now, knowing the struggle that we went through, I'll do it again if I can have what I have today.
From the start, this has definitely been a journey. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. But through it all, the one thing that we did was we kept God in our situation, and it's easy to keep God out of a situation, and it usually never works out. Not usually, it never works out, but we kept praying. We kept asking God, God, please help us. And I remember a lot of the times, and I know Tori got upset with me a lot of the times because I would tell her, let's calm down, and God's going to give us our miracle. But it's easier said than done, I guess, for me, because she's the one that's going to be carrying the child. But I wanted us to try to keep it off of our minds so that maybe it would just happen. There was never one time that I did not think that God would not give us our miracle. Yes, it's frustrating, and it's certain times you want to, give up because of what all you're going through, emotionally, physically. The devil messes with everybody differently, and I can remember times, even dreams that I had where, it would make you feel like it's impossible for us to even have a child or conceive or whatever the case may be. But I always had a good feeling of inner peace. I knew that no matter what those doctors said, I've heard from other people where they've diagnosed with cancer and believe that God would take it away, believe that God would heal them, and God healed them. And I knew that God had not brought me this far to, let us fail. It's easy a lot of times in your situation to just give up. I think that's a natural reaction because you don't want to do what you have to do to keep pushing on because it's hard. I wasn't raised apostolic. I'm a first generation apostolic, and I'm thankful for that. And I make plenty of mistakes. I made plenty of mistakes in my past. And I wondered for a long time, is some of the stuff that I had done in my past, was it causing me for this to happen? Which that's the devil talking, and I know that. But still going through this whole situation, you're wondering, what's going to happen. I can remember, through this whole year and a half, basically 2 years, wondering what this next doctor's going to say. We went from Birmingham to Memphis, back to Birmingham to Tupelo, to talk to everybody.
They had different things to say.
Correct. And I knew that God would not bring us this far and basically not give us a child. But if He did, I was going to do whatever His will was in our life. For people that are listening to this that cannot have children, adoption, or even fostering kids. That's one thing we definitely thought about, and not saying that we still won't do it, because every kid deserves a family, every kid deserves a home. They deserve to be loved. You know, I'm not an emotional person, and that's one thing she's not either, but talking about this and knowing what we went through to get to where we are is it's a miracle. You experience all these things that you've never experienced before, or if you have, not to the severity, because your whole life, like she said, you dreamed to get married to the wife that you've always wanted, buy a house, your car, you know, etc. And the next thing in life is you want a child. And you don't ever fathom or think about when you're, you know, younger that, you know, I'm not going to have a child. I mean, you never think in your mind that that's something that you can't, you know, have or be lucky to have. And going through this experience, there's so many other people that we've learned about that have experienced, you know, what we've experienced. And they know firsthand, you know, what it feels like to go through what we have. You know, every day I look at Ivory and I just think of, you know, that's God's miracle. And for people listening to this, you know, God can give you your miracle. It certainly doesn't come in the time that you want it, because if we could have had it our way, we would have had it a lot earlier. Because I can remember at 4:30, you know, I hate waking up early. I'm not an early person anyway, but I can remember waking up at 4:30 and she's screaming, I'm pregnant. And I'm freaking out, what, you know, and wondering what is going on. I thought somebody had broken our house. And, you know, it didn't really hit me until I got up, but we had that happen before, and she was taking some medicine, so it caused to be a false positive. So I went to work, and I even remember where I was. I told her, and her mother came with her, you know, and they went to the doctor and confirmed that, you know, she was pregnant. And I can remember just praying and thanking God in the car and even crying, you know. We're so blessed with good parents, good in-laws that help us, you know, and I hope everybody has that. I know some people don't, but we are very blessed. But there's so many times in life that you want to give up when situations arise, not just this, but different things. And it's easy to let your mind wander and let the devil get a hold of you and let you think that you're nothing, that it can't happen. You know, but you've got to know that we're not put here for no reason. You know, we're not put here for just to be here. You know, we're here because God created us in His own image.
We have a purpose.
We all have a purpose in this world. You know, God is, you know, it says in the Bible, God will never leave you. He'll never forsake you. You know, He is the great I am. He is the Almighty. He is Alpha and Omega. You know, He's the one person that'll be here when nobody else will. His word was here before, and it'll be here at the end. And during all this time, I think that you know, a revival is going to be definitely coming in the church because of what's going on. You know, it hurts not being able to go to church and not being able to fellowship with other people. But we're blessed to have these tools to reach out to other people. I'm just thankful that God gave us our miracle. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for our church. And I'm thankful for other people that are listening to this to know and that can hear our story and know that, you know, God can give you your miracle and that God is real. And I hope everybody, you know, that hears this knows what we're saying. There's a lot of pain that goes along with this if you're having to experience or going through a situation like this. But God can grant you your miracle, because I've seen it firsthand, and Tori has too. And, it doesn't come in your time, and that's for sure, but it comes at the right time. And I just thank God for our miracle. I thank God for our baby girl. And if you're going through a situation similar to ours, I hope that you trust in God. And it's hard to do. I'm not perfect. I made plenty of mistakes, but the difference in the old me versus me now is I know that what I'm doing is wrong, and I try to fix those mistakes. Knowing now God's always been with me. I was sort of blind to see that, but God's always been with me. There's times that I should have been killed, could have been killed. Car wrecks I've had, places I've been. And now I know that the whole time, God was with me. He was with us during this situation, and just trust in God.